Hello, everyone. Today, in our time zone, in our world, it's February 16th. And last night, through the night, about 2 a.m. in the morning, um, Central Standard Time, I'm Pacific Standard Time, Lenny texts me. And he had woken up from his sleep. He'd had a download. So when we refer to download, what Lenny and I are talking about is that a higher power or our inner self or our higher self is wanting to get in touch with us. Either we're not paying attention and it's trying to get our attention, or it's giving us a burst of creative energy or insights into something that may be occurring today in our world. So Lenny's download at 2 a.m. in the morning happens to be about what's going on in our world today and how it connects to what he and my son were working on over 7 years ago. So I'm going to let Lenny Pittala
Yeah,
start today. And this is freestyle. So here we go.
the only way to go. Thanks, Linda. And Linda's absolutely right. In the past, as you know, we've all been woken up at certain times in the morning, early morning, whatever time. For me, it was always between about 2 and 3 a.m. And in the past, I didn't know what to. I just thought I was waking up, grab something to drink, go back to bed. Right? Even though I may have come out of a revelation or a dream that may have been good, bad, and different. It doesn't really matter. But prior to before the last 7 years, I didn't pay attention to it. Just went back to bed, woke up. Well, in talking with your son and you, I've learned to actually learn from those downloads, as we refer to them now. And now I do too. I haven't always called them that. I've called them dreams. Sometimes they're lucid, sometimes not. But anytime it happens now, at that particular segment of time between 2 and 3 a.m., I pay very close attention to it. Some people call it the witch's hour. I call it God's hour. That's what I call it. And he's telling me something to pay attention to. And a lot of times it's actually when you have something on your mind, but our lives are so busy, you really can't give it a lot of focus maybe throughout the day. So it hits me and maybe others at a time where you can't have any distractions. So for me, between usually, I've always been told nothing good happens after midnight. So I'm in bed pretty early, but sometimes I'll wake up about 2, 3:30, 4 a.m. And whatever had come to me, sometimes something doesn't come to me, sometimes it does. If it does, I actually take notes, or I'll get my phone and text myself. But last night was pretty profound. And since our project has been kicked off, I felt the need to text you because, quite honestly, there's been times where if I didn't do something about it, then that next morning it's fleeting and it's gone. So I do apologize for the late notice, even though it was still midnight your time, right?
Yeah.
So, but thank God, God bless Linda. She was up and she did respond to me. You're one person that always responds to Linda, and I appreciate that because I try to do the same thing. I've prided myself on that because of past experiences, but we'll get that later date. So what's been on my mind, folks, is I think it's on a lot of people's minds today and really the last, I don't know, call it months, weeks, and I'm talking about these files that have been released to the public. Maybe you've seen them, maybe you've just heard about them on social media, but I can tell you this is not something new. Okay, these files were actually released. Uh, it doesn't matter. I'm not a political person either, but Trump released these files back in 2016, 2017 in a different manner. Now, not everybody was able to get this information. I believe this information came to myself. It came to Dusty, your son. Not everybody knew what was going on. And our brains operated to this fashion, how this information was being decimated to these individuals. Okay. Let me explain real quick. What was released to the public, not all public, in my opinion, people that were, in my opinion, able to handle this information. Okay. Because what was released back in 2016 to 2017 was something so profound, so mind blowing to me, Linda, horrifying, that I was just so intrigued. And it was almost coded to where you had to do some more research to really understand what are they talking about here. They may released a sentence, and to most people, like, that's kind of stupid. It wasn't stupid. You were getting an operational intel drop, is what you were getting. Okay. Now, I kept this to myself because as I'm going through it, and at that time in my life, I was still, married and all that stuff. And unfortunately, I couldn't talk to anybody about that would be open to it. Honestly, when I tried to, I was kind of brushed off, ridiculed a little bit. But so it's kind of funny when Dusty had caught on to it as well. I still kind of played dumb about it, because I didn't want to submit. He might be feeling me out like, you're not falling for this stuff, are you? But once I realized after about 5 minutes, he was all in and I was all in. And so for that time period, if we spoke once a week, twice a week, it wasn't every day. We would discuss, the previous week's happenings, because the way they would drop these files back then, you weren't sure what was going to come, and so you'd have to be paying attention, and then you have to decipher what they were saying. They might give you a photo of somebody in a compromising position, and you think, well, what's that all about? Well, you have to dig some more. So it really taught you to think for yourself, and I believe that's really was where, if you weren't in tune, which I was at that time in my life, I was really in tune with my surroundings for the first time in my life. Like, I could predict things that were going to happen. I would say, Leonard's going to call me in about 5 minutes, and you'd call me. It was wild, right? You've been there. But it's really just your gut's intuition is what it comes down to. And really, for me, just God speaking to me. Say, hey, you can handle this stuff. Do something with it. So with this information, I would begin to get more comfortable, because more and more would come out. I felt like, and Dusty definitely did, he was more outspoken than I was, as you know. I'm a little more reserved when it comes to just, I guess I would say, not as aggressive with the message as he was, but I loved it because that's who he was, and it shakes people up. I became to that point. It's, you're talking to family about this, and they're, oh yeah, we know the world's messed up. No, you don't understand. Here's facts, and here's who controls things in the world, and they're not good. Okay, people are finding this out now. I'm almost having deja vu, because as I'm going through social media and friends, and to them, they're hearing about it for the first time. And so some of the reaction is completely, I think if you've seen some stuff online, whatever, from just heartbreak to horrified, because it is horrifying. Some of the things that were being done, to just disbelief. And they say about 6% of the public just won't ever grasp it. That's okay. 94% is going to be enough to grasp it, right? And do something with it, hopefully. So I'm thinking about this, and when I went back in time, that's what hit me with Dusty was, I recall he was really getting down and dirty with it, if you will, and really intrigued by it. And I'm going to kind of make a statement that goes back to my previous about how, people that had this information early on were ridiculed. You were almost, the conspiracy theory label and all that stuff, which actually just means you're seeking the truth. If people look it up, that's what it means. And I recall I got a call from one of his partners at the time and asked if I had talked to Dusty in a while. I said, yeah, man, I talked to him yesterday. And his comment was something along the lines of, man, he's off the grid. I think he might be kind of losing it. He's all into this conspiracy stuff. And I knew exactly what he was talking about at that point. I said, oh, is that right? Now, we know now today, fast forward today, Linda, and it's another topic for another show, but there were ulterior motives there, unfortunately. So I wasn't trying to hear all that. I shut down pretty quick. But that's what came to me. And that's why I was becoming upset about hearing about these files and I've seen it. I don't need to see videos, pictures. I don't need to see I don't want to see it. They're out there though. They may be gone now, but they were at one time. Today's Monday. I know as of this weekend they were. And people were just I don't know. Do you have any experience with that? Let me before I go too far, have you spoken to friends or on media that have seen this stuff now for the first time or just
And basically, no.
okay.
I watch
All right.
Facebook. I pay attention to X, and so I'm watching,
That's where
and
you gotta pay attention. You gotta be on X.
and I'm paying attention, and I don't like what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and and I know the frustration of being what I call a spiritual warrior
Correct.
because it sets you apart from other people when you're not saying that everything you do is, oh, we all have duality. We all have light and dark,
100%.
shadow and light. The idea is to not stay in the dark, not stay in the shadow, but to understand our shadow so that we can integrate it into where we want to be most, and that's in the light. And so
Absolutely.
I know exactly how my son thought. A lot of times I would get the calls, just like last night I got the text, because he would be wrangling with something in the middle of the night,
Sure.
and that meant he had downloads or he was, really thinking through or, because, and then you wouldn't watch him on Facebook, he would put a challenging message out there and,
Oh,
and
I used to love that.
he would start this discourse and I never entered in, but I watched. Because that's who he was. And that was the beauty about him because
No
his
doubt.
brain, he could see through shadows
Correct.
and he could see through patterns
That's right.
and he could put them this beautiful mosaic in together, whether it was beautiful or not, but it would be beautiful when it's done about what he thought should happen. So
Yeah.
there was a sheer fact that I know he's in heaven. And then he's reaching down, and I think he probably also had a good kick into your download last night. That's just my perception.
Well,
That,
you must have some part of it because I immediately thought of that conversation I had about this topic and how I just thought, it wasn't even like being I just knew the play,
yeah,
and I didn't even tell Dusty about that conversation. It wasn't worth it. He didn't care anyways what people thought about him.
no,
And I've kind of become that way to a certain degree, obviously. But you're absolutely right. And so the duality, I thought about that too. Here's what people have to understand this, Lyndon. I want you to touch upon it more, but what's been happening, and it's not new. We're going back possibly thousands of years of this duality, and what it really is frequencies and vibration. So we operate at a high positive vibrational level. That's where we're most happy, content, and really love is the ultimate, right?
right.
Well, these others, and that's how I refer to them, these others operate at a low vibrational frequency. And so I'll give you a couple of examples how this takes place. Anytime we have been, as a public, programmed by something we've seen, I'll give you two examples. Number one, let's just take 9/11, right? Everybody saw that. I'm pretty sure everyone besides these others were in complete shock, heartbreak, disbelief, scared, etc. Right? Okay.
Mhm.
Another one that I wasn't there, but you probably were. JFK assassination,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Everybody saw it. The entire world shocked. So they feed off that negative energy. These others, okay. I don't think they're human. That's my personal opinion. I don't get too much into it. I really too. I think I know now that they don't have the same DNA we have. You can call them what you want. I just call them they're from like Planet X. I don't know where these people come from because what they're doing to innocent children is not human. Okay, but they're operating on a level that we can't even fathom. to where you're right that you got the yin and the yang, so polar opposites, right? Can't and they can't relate to us. They think what they're doing, I guess, is normal. You're, okay, I'm sorry, you're sacrificing children, torturing them, et cetera, et cetera. Let me tell you right now, if that doesn't get you fired up to take action, I don't know what else would, because it's all about the kids. I mean, that's our only hope, and that's our true test, I believe, from God is to protect them. And unfortunately, for how many years we probably haven't. The stats are out there. 800,000 kids go missing here in the U.S. And I heard it the other day, and I was dumbfounded by this. The president of Romania, of all places, globally, 8 million kids go missing. Now, how's that possible without a trace? Do you know this? Is this for the first time you're hearing these stats? Now, if
I
that,
hadn't heard the Romanian stats. I mean, and I,
I'll send you the link. I'll send the video. I
yeah,
was
I'd like to see
actually,
it.
and he said it so straight faced. I think he was speaking in English, but they were transcribing in his current language. And I said, wait, did he say? Let me repeat. 8 million globally. And unfortunately, the United States is, I guess, the largest consumer of this stuff. So you go from disbelief. It's almost like what's the process, Linda, of denial and say if you have like a problem, an addiction, whatever the case may be, you got to go through or you lose somebody like we have. You're almost grieving for the country and the world, really. Okay. Well, that for me, that happened 8 years ago. And not enough people, I guess, woke up to it. So now it's got to be in your face. And they used to state in these drops, the statement was, the people have to see it. You can't just come out and say, hey, this is going on. We tried that because he's been out there. In writing, people still brush it off, or they don't want to go there. And I get that. There's a generation that is just set in their ways, and they listen to mainstream media, and that's all they listen to and watch. And it is what I mean. My parents are that way, so I mean, yeah, I'm not going to convince them otherwise. I think they listen to me, and they're probably realizing maybe he wasn't as crazy as we thought he was 7 years ago. And so now they're coming to me for advice. Well, what do you want to know? I know a lot of the stuff. I forgot a lot of it too, but that's why I'm not shocked or shook now. To where the public now is, because this is like phase 4 of awakening, right? Trying to find we're still in the dark right now, though, right? Wouldn't you agree? We're not at that light just yet.
Well, and when you think about the one percenters, two percenters,
Mm-hmm. 1% of 1%.
yeah, very good. You're talking about a lot of ego. You're talking about a lot of money, and you're talking about base instincts. And for them, I was trying to think of how I wanted to say it, but basically, their morality doesn't exist, and it's all about the money or the control or the power.
100%.
So it's their egos.
100%.
They wouldn't know how
At
to
the end of the
follow
day,
their
that's what it
heart
comes
if they
down
tried.
to.
And you did when you made a comment about children. I also want to say about women
Oh, of
and
course.
young boys
Of
and
course.
young males. It's anybody
100%.
that you can
100%. But it starts
control.
with the child. We have to protect those children from the beginning, so they don't get to even be that place as a woman or a young man or a young girl. No, it got to stop.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how we're going to stop. I mean, it's going to take an act of God, I hope, really, to dispose of these people. And I'm sorry, that's how I feel about it, because we can't. There's one group of people, Linda, we cannot coexist with, and they ain't going to change. So, what do? Right? It's spiritual battle, and I think everybody. I think this place we call Earth. This is the ultimate test. And you can. And my message is, and this is what I thought about last night too, is just because media, society is trying to normalize it, you have to realize it's not normal, you know. And but they've got the media and they've got the grip on that industry to where if you turn on TV, you could bet your bottom dollar you're being programmed. And there's an agenda. You have to realize that. I don't care if it's a commercial, a movie, even some sports that you might NFL. There's an agenda there. As long as you recognize that, I think you're cool. You're okay with it. But if you're watching it and you're amazed by, and I mean, this Bad Bunny doing halftime show, then okay. But see, unfortunately, people like myself and your son, we pick up instantly what they're trying to convey to us. So I can't even watch stuff anymore because if I watch with friends or whatever, and I start giving my spiel, but I usually just walk out of the room now because they probably don't want to hear it anyways. They're just trying to be entertained. That's okay too, but you have to understand, it's called programming for a reason on TV, okay, and radio for the most part now. Music, you got to be very careful what you follow, what you pay attention to, especially with when your brains are developing, because it could really take a hold, and before you even know it, you're just desensitized to it. Yeah, you just don't realize what happened, and oh yeah, they're sacrificing kids and torturing. Oh well, it's horrible. No man, see that's the wrong even response from somebody who's not developed, but that's that's the play, and so that's what I really want to talk to you about, and um, I want to give you a story that I read, and then I'll let you go on some stuff. It's talking about vibration. This it really caught my attention. Um, and your age, you recall bells being around, church bells, and mainly the only bells left are some churches, and even those are so. Back thousands of years ago, there were bells everywhere, right? And towns all over Europe, Russia, starting to get the U.S. Their town had a town bell, and when that bell would ring, and there's actually documented cases of people telling stories that the town felt good and cohesive unit. They were in line, they were in tune. Well, World War One kicked off, and we all know wars were started by usually bankers. They fund both sides, but that's another story. They said whoever the powers would be at that time, they needed the bells for ammunition and military equipment. Okay, so whoever went around and confiscated all these bells from all these towns and countries, thousands, there wasn't a bell left, and they really didn't use the bells. You'll find today there are fields of bells just sitting out like in some field in Europe. Okay, they took those bells away, and what the town felt different. Almost they described depressed, down. They weren't in tune. Okay, well, guess what? Somebody decided the others that they don't like that frequency, and I've read, it's biblical. You know, demonic entities do not like that frequency of the bells. Okay, so they were empowered then, so they got rid of the bells. Okay, and quite honestly, they really haven't come back. I mean, you might go to a high school football game, they might ring a bell coming out of the locker room. That's about what I've seen as of late. So that relates to the vibrational frequencies of high and low. And that's a true story. Everybody, you can look it up if you want to. I was fascinated by it. There's some documentaries on it. There might be some. I think the one I watched was they took the bells away, and but that's what it comes down to, and that's what we're up against, and it's daunting, but we're still better than these others because we operate at high free. They have to always be combating what we're doing to even sustain their life, I guess, if that's even what you want to call it, quite honestly. So pretty cool little tidbit fact. I want to get that out there, but that's what I'm trying to relate to this frequency. And I think would you agree, relatable story to where people can understand frequencies and they really do affect.
We all vibrate
We
at a
operate.
frequency. And
Absolutely.
that's why the frequency that we vibrate with either draws people or repels them,
100%.
you know? And so it's that's why it's so important to find like-minded people, people who believe in evolving, growing, moving more towards the light, because nobody's perfect. You
Of
know, we're
course not. We
imperfectly,
all make mistakes.
I love to say we're all imperfectly perfect, but the thing to do that's so important is to find people that want to be more in the light, want to understand their duality, the shadows within that we all have, and learn
That's
more
right.
about how to integrate them so that we can live with them and keep our vibrational frequency as a magnet to others. And so that's kind of what building a collective of people is all about. And, we're so in the world today, it's so fast paced that everybody's trying to protect their little center of gravity because, they don't know how to. This is daunting when you're talking about a worldwide issue that is impacting humans and life and love and peace and happiness. And people are struggling at work. They're everywhere there's a struggle right now. So the
There
more
is.
that we can bring people together and get our vibration at a what I would call a stabilized kind of thing, and then just grow and keep learning and evolving, because that's the key.
That is the key. And you also made a good point, and that's my thought is as our mission is as a collective, if we all start to move that direction, we can't be stopped.
No,
There's
we'll
more of us anyways, and you can't beat the light at the end of the day. You're not going to beat positivity and positive frequencies and vibrations. It's just impossible. That's why they have to be in the shadows. And those are facts. We don't have to be in the shadows. Now we I can operate from the shadows. I can do some pretty bad stuff, not that like that, but my mind goes there sometimes, but then I check myself. Well, these others, they do not. They actually, that's how they thrive. So it's kind of like I get down and dirty, if we have to.
well,
I
can't we
choose not
all?
to.
I mean,
I
we
choose.
have
I've had,
duality. It's a
and
choice.
we've had to at times, right? We've
Yeah,
had
it's
to
a
at times
choice.
to either defend ourselves, protect our families, or just function in life at times. And I can pick up on these type of people pretty quickly. Um, I don't associate with them anymore.
Right.
You just can't,
I
because it's negative energy,
Yeah,
right?
I make choices about who I put myself around anymore. I just
I think
do
you have to.
for my own self, because
And it's
and there's a for those of you who may or may not know tarot, but there's a beautiful tarot card called the Strength card, and you'll see the female and opening the mouth of the lion. And what I love about it is it's there's a power there without force and aggression,
yeah,
and
that's
And that
true.
is extremely powerful when we can learn. And I mean, I have a hot temper. It's something I came by
Well,
naturally, and I've had to work, 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 and I'm a
likewise.
work in progress like anybody else. But it really speaks to me that it isn't weakness when we choose not to respond.
100%.
It's actually strength softened, but very powerful.
That's been the biggest challenge that I've somewhat overcome is you don't always have to respond to people that are throwing negative um, actions towards you, let's just say,
Or want to
Yeah.
fight.
or want to
Yeah.
fight or want to put you down, just because that's how they feed off that energy. And so what I found is silence is truly golden. The
Mhm.
moment you stop responding to that negative energy, they suffer. you know when in the past, myself or some, we've ran hot, and we feel like, well, not anymore, but at one time we have to defend ourselves. Why? I don't have to defend myself against who are you? I love what Deion Sanders said that one time. Remember prime time? He says, "You didn't make me, so you can't break me."
Mhm.
That made so much
Yeah,
sense to me.
exactly.
Why am I getting upset? You didn't make me. How are you going to break me? right? Is that I think that was awesome. It was
Mhm.
not too long ago. That hit home because at that time I was still kind of responding to individuals that would get under my skin, And I would try not to. I knew it was going on, but I still couldn't help myself at times. And then I thought, well, wait a second, what? And it would upset me because sometimes there were personal attacks about my family, about my children, and I knew it wasn't true, but it still hurt because I'm an empath, I'm an emotional person, and so I would have to jar back. Well, I don't know. My best defense is no defense against these people. Would you agree with that?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Because, well, and I think it also goes back to the old saying, actions speak louder than words.
100%.
And
100%.
that idiom, is pretty strong and pretty powerful when you think about it.
I've always believed that. I never could stand the people that want to talk all the time, but no action. You know, I always got the loudest person in the room, but what are you doing? I mean, what are you doing to help others? Or what are you doing to help people in business or coaching or on the field, whatever the case may be? I hear you all day, John, but that's just how people are. So, well, and I got to tell you, I mean, this was impromptu. Um, I'm glad we got together. Uh, are you, or are you just kind of like, what? Does it make more sense now?
Well, it makes sense now hearing you talk about it because at 2 in the morning,
Well,
I
people have to
just got
understand,
little.
guys. Linda is much. I thought I was kind of OCD and organized. I am in my business life. I really am. But when I'm being creative, and I told Linda from we started this that when I'm being creative, you have to stay on me. Did I say that?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
boy, has she. So she doesn't like curveballs. She wants things on the calendar by the minute. What's going on next? And I love that because now at times I'm like, oh, come on, man, I got things going on. But I need that because otherwise I'll get on to something else. But I want to thank you for adapting to me, I guess,
Well,
on this one. I
also
appreciate it.
you have to understand, my whole goal and lesson in life has been patience, learning patience, because
Woo!
I have an intensity about me.
I'm
My
working on that
son
now.
had an intensity about him.
100%.
I've got a, daughter with
We all do.
intensity. I mean,
It's
we
called
just
passion. It's,
do.
it's called we
But
care. Hello, you know,
I've had to learn patience.
love it. I'm working on that. I have patience at times and not other times. It's just the way it is. But I'm grown and
But we're human,
thanks to you. We're human,
and
and
that's part of evolving.
you've helped me a lot, and your son's helped me a lot with those aspects. So we'll keep moving forward.
And
What would you like
the
to leave
thing,
with the audience? Any ideas with what you'd like to leave everybody? I've got a couple ideas, but I think you hit on the head earlier about the collective still working together. Um,
I think it's just number one. I think it's always important is really to help build this collective of like-minded people. I found it in my evolution of my spiritual work that I couldn't have done it alone. And also in whatever you're feeling, whether it's work, relationships, grief, sorrow, whatever, that you're not alone. We're all human. So we came here to learn lessons, and you can't learn lessons if you don't make mistakes because you won't see the benefit of it.
Only
So,
time I've really learned is
so
from
it's
mistakes.
okay. And what I want people to understand is I'm not very good at giving myself grace. I've had to learn through my healing work that we're human, we're still going to make mistakes, but give ourselves grace and
Hmm.
just know you're okay. And no one's perfect, but it's understanding and learning. And so sometimes we're afraid to confront our darkness. Oh, I've got a hair trigger, anger right now. Or, okay, but then how are you gonna try to integrate it so that you're more kind or that you stop and think before you open your mouth, you know?
Yeah,
Because I can tell you times I would have just it all would come out.
sure.
And my I had several wonderful principals when I was, teaching in high school and middle school, and they would say, I love what you get done, but you are so intense. And I said, I know. I don't know what to do about it. I mean, I guess that's going to be my lifelong lesson that I had. Evidently, I made a soul contract to bring back into this life to deal with patience, intensity, you know, all of that stuff. I mean, because
Well, it
I'm
goes back to your
stuff
point, though.
too.
If you're not working on something, in your case, the patience piece, that's a lifelong journey. It's not going to happen overnight.
No.
The moment you stop working on yourself, you become like these others, and you get stuck in these ruts, and nothing good comes out of that. Nobody's perfect. You can't tell me anybody who's conquered the world is perfect. So, just as a hypothetical, the people I look up to are the ones that come back from mistakes. They're always looking to better themselves. They're socially aware of what's going on around them, and they truly just are there to help others by helping themselves. Right? It goes two ways, really. That duality. So that's big. I'll add to what you're talking about for our final message is that there is hope, and there are things that are taking place behind the scenes. You're not going to see it on mainstream media, okay? But we are, and it comes back to my initial thought of how the only reason we're privy to what we're privy to now, these files, is because something is taking place. Think for a minute. Do you think we'd have any information if they were still in control? I can
Yes,
answer that question.
there was an eruption somewhere.
I said people keep their heads up and realize this. We wouldn't even have these files if they were still in total control. So there is something taking place. And right now we're in the exposure phase for about the fourth time. But seems like the largest drop of this particular intel file that the public has been privy to.
And for
And so,
those of you that follow it too, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but there's a
no,
lot
please
of
do.
astrological things going on right now that haven't happened in lots of years and lots of time. And that's not my expertise, but I do follow it a lot. So there's a lot going on. So if you're feeling things, it's because, the cycles and everything are changing and we're entering into different things. And so you may be feeling it and you just don't know what it is, but know that you're not alone about it.
That's a fact. We've talked about that, Linda, where what you mentioned it was a 9-year cycle of
Because
and
we're in the number one of a new 9 years.
and that made so much because that was actually that has been my 9-year progression really when I was kind of in the dark and but as you mentioned to me it can't go any further, remember, like, yep, that's my goal, and that's when things started happening, and we started putting things in motion that we've spoke about, in the past. And so yeah, just stay positive, people, and you know I would recommend just being patient and putting faith in whatever you put faith in, that it's going to work out, but it's not going to be easy.
Hmm.
It's going to still be a bumpy road, but I think there is hopefully a light at the end of this tunnel. We ain't there yet, but we're all going to work there to get there together. I think. I hope that's what we're trying to do, right, Linda? I mean,
Yeah.
that's our whole mission.
And share, just share with everybody.
Yeah.
You're not
All
alone.
right. Well, let's get back to work.
And just remember, love and kindness beats it all.
Every
Love
time.
and kindness.
Every time. All right. Much love, Linda. Thank you.
Okay, same to you.